In case you were wondering, what are we doing for the next 30 minutes? Well, we are going to take you from guest to welcome home. But I need a little help to understand who is in the audience this morning. So if you have been a Toastmaster for the last year, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand using the raise hand feature in the bottom so that I can see it on my screen. So if you joined in the last year, well, Janelle, welcome. Sandra, Lisa, excellent. Oh, I love that we have some new Toastmasters here. Tamara, excellent. If you have been a Toastmaster for 5 years, I'm going to ask you to now raise your hand if you've been a Toastmaster for 5 years. Michaela, excellent. Chad, oh, Chad, look at you, Club Growth Director in 5 years. That is amazing. Britt, Micah, oh, I love this. Okay, so if you have been a Toastmaster for 10 years now, for 10 years, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. 10 years. Fran has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. Kalmekis has been a Toastmaster for 10 years. Valerie, excellent. Bernie, Cheryl, love this. I love this because that means that you keep coming back for more and more because the program is working for you. Now, one more question. Do I have anyone in the room, Yolanda, I might be calling you out, who's been a Toastmaster for more than 20 years? Raise your hand using the raise hand feature. More than 20 years. So Fran, Lee, Fran, I think her hand just went down. All right, so Cedric, Yolanda, yep, there we are. Dee, Victoria, excellent. So all of that to say is we run the gamut on experience in Toastmasters. Oh, Roy, I just saw your hand go down. So yes, Roy's been a Toastmaster for more than 20 years. This is excellent. Now, for those of you who have been a Toastmaster for 5, 10, 20 years, if you're like me, this moment is going to take a little bit of hearkening back to the very beginning. Because as we go along this journey, we need to remember that every member here was once a guest. We were someone who walked into a meeting knowing that we needed Toastmasters, but a little uncertain as to why we were there or exactly what to expect coming out of it. And what makes one person join and another person disappear are completely different ideas. And by one person, I mean one guest. One guest join and one guest never show back up. But we're going to explore all of that today, and we're going to turn that simple hello into a heartfelt welcome home. Now, I'm going to ask you to hold on to that, how long you've been here in Toastmasters, because I want to share a personal story as to how I got started into Toastmasters. And I am not ashamed to admit that I was a 4-club start into this event. I first received a flyer from a former coworker who said, Amy, do you want to go to this? And I said, sure. I had no idea what it was, but I was always in for a good time. And Rosemary always gave me some good laughs. So I thought, oh, this will be perfect. Great chance to catch up with a former coworker. Sure enough, she couldn't make it. And there was no way, absolutely no way that I was going to that event, whatever it was, on my own. And so Toastmasters left my brain. A number of years later, somehow, and I honestly don't remember how, if I was just sitting on the couch Googling or what came up, but I stumbled across Toastmasters again. This time I got more active and I started looking to discover that there was multiple Toastmasters and there was one right near me. And so sure enough, I messaged the club, I get the information back, and in my head, I'm a little geographically challenged, and the church that I thought they were meeting at was not in fact the address they gave me. And so sure enough, I show up just in time, but I was so afraid to go in because I had heard what I now know is the Toastmaster of the day say, and remember, we don't want to show up late because we need to start the meeting on time. And this was just as I entered the door. I quickly backed away and I waited to move out of the area where I was visible, and I sat on the stoop that was right outside of that door. And I thought, do I go in? Don't I go in? Do I go in? Don't I go in? Nope, did not make it in. 2 years after that, a coworker decided after I was whinging about doing evaluations, said, Amy, I'm doing an educational tonight. Why don't you come with me? And I said, sure. So I came along and I had no idea what was going on that night. Not only did I not know what was going on that night, I was so confused. And then at the very end, the grammarian said that I had 67 likes in that meeting. And I felt so much shame in that very moment. For so many reasons, I felt shame. So when we left the meeting, my coworker was a very dear friend, and I looked at her and said, I don't get it. And she said, Amy, I got a club for you. I've got the place for you. And so sure enough, we go to the fourth club, And I walk in and oh my goodness, I had the time of my life. And when I tell this story, I always refer to it as I saw the individuals there, I experienced them, and I was like, my people, I'm with my people. And it was just this absolute moment of feeling like I had come home. I was a misfit among misfits. It was all ages were there, all professions. I felt like I didn't have to be the accountant I was at that time because I didn't want to be an accountant. But that's my 4 clubs start into all of this. And so how that relates back to the experience is remembering that discomfort after my 13 years to bring this presentation here. So I'm going to ask all of you, especially the ones who have been in for 10, 15, 20 years, to go way back to that very first time. Not why you renew, but way back to that very first time. And I want you to share with me, or I would like you to share in the chat, is what made you say yes to Toastmasters? Not renew, but what made you say that initial yes? And again, those 20 years, my memory's terrible at 13. Harken way back to that moment. And let's see, in the chat here, the positive welcome, curiosity. I wanted to grow in the area of leadership. Yolanda had a very definitive reason for being there. Self-improvement and connection, personal development and learning, need skills for the job. Need skills for the job. How many of us had managers who said, you need Toastmasters? After being called to respond to table topics was a demo meeting, I realized I needed help. You felt it. You got to experience that one firsthand. I love all of this. So remember those moments, because we are going to constantly come back to this. And when I go back to my own, where we think about all of this is we need to remember what it was like and shift our minds back to that very, very first moment, because guests don't join clubs. And I know that that's a really hard thing to hear because most of us instinctively want to go, but my club is absolutely amazing. My club brings it for everyone. My club is the best place in the world. My fellow Toastmasters are amazing, correct? How many of us have that feeling about my club, our clubs? Perfect. Now we're going to shift that mindset because we've just made that about us. But for a guest, it needs to be about them. They're not joining a club. They're joining for belonging. They're joining wanting to feel that they fit in. They're joining wanting to know that whatever this event is, whatever this meeting is, and seeing all these people go up in public speaking, that they can do it too because they will be supported. And second, about them, about the guest, is do they feel the belief? Do they believe that Toastmasters will in fact help them get to where they want to go? Do they honestly believe after seeing the meeting that Toastmasters can assist them? And finally, the third component of a guest mentality, of that mindset that they have, is do they see the benefit? Do they see the long-term benefit of joining and investing in that future with Toastmasters, investing in their own future through this process? And that's where we really, really realize that clubs guests don't join clubs. Guests are joining for the experience they've received. And that experience is the responsibility of all of us existing Toastmasters. We can have the most logical program in the world. We know that a meeting has prepared speeches, table topics, so that impromptu speaking, and then of course evaluations that help us improve. But the reality is, as logical as that is, and as logical as it is that somebody would come and advance through the program to develop all that self-confidence, it's an emotional decision to join an organization. It's an emotional decision on whether they feel that they belong, that there's belief, and that there's benefit in the organization to assist them. So when guests connect with the people, that's the belonging. And when they connect with the purpose, the belief, and they connect with the promise of what Toastmasters offers, the benefit, then that's when joining becomes that super easy yes. And our job, our responsibility is to build those connections intentionally. So I'm going to ask you to give it to me. Just give it to me in the chat as fast as possible. What is the number one excuse you hear of guests who do not join? Just fill that chat up with all that. Why don't they join? What have they told you? Don't have time. Fear, work, busy, too busy. Work is hectic, no time, money and time. I'm afraid. Time, too busy, time. So there's a theme here. We have a theme where individuals feel that they are too busy. Now, if I'm being honest, sure, I would say that 10% of individuals who give the reason of no time and they're too busy legitimately are. The other 90% did not feel the benefits, the belonging, and the belief. Because if they did, they would realize that no matter how busy they are, Toastmasters will improve their lives. Everywhere, personal, professional, it helps relationships and connection. Now, if we take a look at the theory behind a guest journey, we have before the meeting, that's with all the promotions and the advertisements and the marketing that you as club officers and members are doing. And I'm going to give you the pro tip behind that one. Big pro tip, Google your club name. Is the information correct across all the platforms? If it's not, correct it. Because often in today's day and age where information comes at us from all different angles, you get one shot at getting the information correct for an individual to arrive at your club. So now that we've got the promotions out there, they're effective, people are arriving. The second stage is they have arrived at the meeting. Take a moment. And while this seems obvious, did you say hello to them? Especially if you are an online or a hybrid club and they have joined electronically. Make sure that you have messaged them. Make sure that you have taken a moment to specifically say hello, welcome. And third is during that meeting. I apologize, I think it was Roy who said that during the meeting he participated and he realized, and I was saying that feeling, by asking an individual to participate beyond just the opening comments and the closing comments, but asking them to participate in either table topics, and sometimes some clubs even let the individual be the timer. There's that feeling of understanding because, as Yolanda said, we learn by doing, not through osmosis of watching. And of course, the after the meeting. So we have the invitation. You kind of gotta ask them. You need to ask the guests, do you want to join? Do that invitation or at least a follow-up invitation to express that they are welcome to attend a second meeting. And of course, the final one is the follow-up, that ask. Do you have a method within your club that is definitively asking an individual to join your club? Now, I am highlighting specifically two stages.
I can't hear nothing.
And these two stages are the most important. And guests decide whether or not to return within their first 5 minutes and whether to join based on what happens after the meeting. So if you think about it, those two, arriving at the meeting and the follow-up after, those are the personal moments that you have with a guest. That's that connection. That's that ability to talk with them as humans, to see their belonging, their belief, and their benefit. And if we imagine, if every guest got that personal attention, I know it's hard to believe, but that yes would follow in, like I said, 90%, because in 10%, they just can't make it work this time. But at least they know they had a great experience, and that will resonate with them in the months and years to come, that they will find time. So I'm going to take you back to that mindset of going back to the guest join for the experience. And that experience is solely responsible, is solely our responsibility. And it starts before they've even mentioned joining. So what we want to do is go back to those three: belonging, belief, and benefit. And how do we impact all of that? So we know that guests want to feel like they belong, that connection. And that is exactly our responsibility. We need to create that sense of belonging. We need to bring them into the fold. And that's asking and effectively listening, not just asking for the sake of asking, but asking for the sake of understanding. How did they come to Toastmasters? What are their goals? What do they want to get out of Toastmasters? And once you've built that connection, you can then touch in on what are the belief? Do they feel that it will help them? And how we bridge that is we share our own value from Toastmasters. And that value is different from person to person. That value for me is never going to be the same as Chad. It won't be the same as Yolanda. What I got most out of Toastmasters is actually not public speaking. What I received as value is the ability to speak to my boss without having a mental breakdown afterwards, thinking that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know my job, I didn't understand the tasks. That was the value that I received. And so when we've shared our own story, in addition and coupled with their belief and what they need and that active listening that we've talked about, we can then address the benefit that they will receive. And the benefit that they receive is by joining, having access to the education program, having access to mentors, having access to regular evaluations on performance, and having that ability to really hone in on those specific avenues that they're looking to improve and advance upon. Now I'm going to focus in on two of those components. One is the communicate, and the second is the continue. How many of us have shown up and not realized it, but we use all the jargon? I've been guilty of it once or twice. We get excited about Toastmasters, right? We are just phenomenally excited about what we have done and accomplished, and we want everyone else to have that. So give me all the acronyms and jargon that make no sense to anyone who's not a Toastmaster. DTM, TI, TLI, VPE, pathways, base camp, yes. So we use a VPM, all the officer roles, when we refer to them by the acronym. When we even start talking about the paths as acronyms. I got a VC, I got a PM, I hit my level 5, I hit my level 2. I've got my DTM that was mentioned earlier, SAA, CC. So if we're referring back to the former programs. And I've done this rant before at other education sessions, and I love it because people don't realize how odd it sounds until they have directly been told, put yourself in the mindset of a guest. And I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to tell you, when I started out in Toastmasters, it was absolutely phenomenal. I showed up to the meeting and then they gave me the agenda and I was given my books right away. And I started with my CC and then I had to do my CL and then I did an HPL and then I did a DTM. And then I was just really, really excited because they got me on. So then I started taking leadership positions and I was a div director. And then I was a CGD, a PQD, and a DD. And now I'm an RA. How did that work for you? So now that you've had the opportunity to get all that jargon out and you've put it in the chat box, we're going to forget it. We're going to leave all of that jargon out of our vocabulary when we're speaking with guests because we need them to understand what we're saying. So my next challenge for you, and I'm going to give you roughly a minute of silence to come up with 15 words or fewer, share how Toastmasters has helped you personally. Keep it honest, keep it simple, and keep it human. But how Toastmasters has helped you. Now note the nuance is different, for this is not why did you renew, but this is how did Toastmasters help you. So I've mentioned before, I now have the ability to have great conversations with my boss, and I can inform him in 1 minute or less the status of a project. Toastmasters has also given me the ability to empower a team to not just make it through a meeting, but build energy beyond the meeting to complete the project. Ooh, and they're coming in. Roy, better able to, ooh, I missed it. Better able to articulate my message. I like that. Lost my fears, stepped up and out, and found my family. Toastmasters gives me a sense of purpose in giving back and introduces me to people who are happy. So I'm going to infer that as involvement in the community, the courage to step up in a community, to be a part of something bigger. It has helped me build confidence in speaking, because that would resonate with an individual who their boss has told them they need to present better at work in meetings. Confidence and introversion, taken out of introvertism. Solidarity, my friend, I hear you. Focus on delivering my message for a particular audience. David, that is a huge one. So that when you learn to read the room, you can direct that message more appropriately. That's very similar to what we're talking about exactly right now, is learning to read the guest to find out how to assist them. It's focusing that message to the audience you're speaking to. I stepped into greater people leadership roles at work. Ooh, Renisha, very good. I like it. And that's very similar to me. Like I said, I had my first ever leadership experience at work, and now in Toastmasters, and it's actually developed the skills that I am a mentor at work to many of the younger employees, and they've put me in that position for that reason. So these can go on, but like I said, you always want to draw back to that very moment that you said yes to Toastmasters, and then to present day as to how much you have gained. You know, my partner's favorite one is always in reference to when I've cooked the meal and I didn't burn it. He's learned to give me effective evaluations, because if he says, you burnt the dinner, Amy, I'm not going to make him dinner again. So he's learned to be way more kind in, that was a lovely, lovely asparagus side dish, but maybe we can get a timer so we know when to flip the steak. Valid and constructive. I can work with that. So always remember what Toastmasters has given us, and that improvement in our relationships, our professional lives, our personal lives, everything that it has encompassed, including how to organize a meeting better. That works as well. Now, this is where we talk about the continuum, because if you're like me, I've never hidden the fact, and so I won't hide it here, but we are going to talk about it. When I put my name forward to be CGD, I thought, oh, this is not the role for me. This is not, I'm not sales. This is not what we do in this household. Like, this is not what this body is capable of. And so I learned so much in that year, because it's being a club growth director, being a VP of membership, they are the same, just on different scales, but they are all about authentic conversations. It's not awkward, it's authentic. It's sharing your experience, and that's all it is. So you're not selling. What you're recognizing is the potential in that guest. You're seeing how Toastmasters can help them. You're seeing, you've listened, you've heard what they need for the benefit of Toastmasters. You've heard that. You can now recognize the potential that they have in Toastmasters and that Toastmasters has for them. That's all we're doing, is just simply having a great conversation and recognizing their potential. So if we then reflect back on that, we know that the belonging equals the connection. It's up to us, our responsibility, to make that connection for them, to bring them in and give them that sense of belonging. The belief, we need to communicate that. They're not going to make that connection. So to the VPPRs that we have in the room today, this is big for you. You need to connect the dots for the general mysterious public out there as to why Toastmasters is amazing. And finally, the benefit. We need to continue to engage them, to have them continue their journey. Because when we focus on what they need, the belonging, the belief, and the benefit, and we take responsibility for that, we can have thriving, amazing clubs. So conclusion, I just want to remind you that guests join for the experience. They don't join a club. They join the experience that they have had inside your club. And when you take that mindset and constantly bring it back to that, that 13 years ago for me, that moment where I walked into Crystal Beach Toastmasters and went, oh, my people, it was an amazing way of saying hello to welcome home, Amy. And that is what made the connection. Now, there was mention of talking about the lifelong membership, or the lifelong members that we have all become. So this is where we get to take our mindset for a moment, and we're no longer looking at the guests, but we're looking at our fellow Toastmasters. And now we can talk about renewals. Pro tip again, it's the exact same process. So we are going to summarize retention with the exact same process. Do you feel you belong? Are you still getting benefit from it? And do you still believe that Toastmasters will help you? Because all of your fellow Toastmasters know that that's true. But fellow Toastmasters, you have a responsibility to every member as well to bring all three of those components to their life. And with that, I simply want to say a very big thank you to the District 44 trio, so to Renisha and Chad and Yolanda for having me here today. It's a